All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, we are going deep. I mean, deep into the world of whiskey.
We are.
Yeah. I think we've all enjoyed a glass, maybe two.
Ready?
But how much do we actually know about it, like beyond our go-to bottle?
That's what we're here for, right?
Exactly. Get ready for some serious aha moments, because today we're uncovering the real story behind this beloved, beloved spirit.
And believe me, there's a rich history there.
Right.
Ready to be uncorked.
Yeah.
Be prepared to have any preconceived notions challenged.
Mm.
We're going way back. Centuries, continents.
Okay, I am so ready. See, I always thought whiskey, Scotland, Ireland, right. But get this, Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia.
Wow, yeah.
Turns out our ancestors, they were already way ahead of us in the drink department. They were distilling liquids way back when, and not even always for having a good time.
I'm kidding.
Right. It's incredible.
It really highlights, I think, our fascination with distillation. It goes way back. Extracting essences, concentrating flavors. Just imagine what they were able to create.
Like the OG mixologists, right?
In a way.
It's amazing, though. It makes you think, right? I mean, whiskey, they used to call it aquavitae. Water of life.
Water of life?
Can you imagine, like, strolling up to a bar today and being like, give me an aquavitae? Totally changes the vibe, right?
Right.
I mean, we think about whiskey, it's like enjoyment, sophistication. But back then, it could be medicinal.
It's true.
Maybe even life-saving.
Absolutely. It really just goes to show how much our perception, what we consume, it evolves, with our culture.
With history.
Right.
Really.
We attach these like modern meanings to things, and we forget their stories. They often have roots in these really old practices.
Absolutely. And speaking of roots, let's try to untangle something that I think trips a lot of people up. Whiskey or whiskey? With an E or without an E, what's the deal?
Ah, the great spelling debate.
Right.
More than just a spelling quirk, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
There's a story in that E, or the lack thereof. As a general rule, though, countries with an E in their name, think Ireland, the United States.
Okay.
They tend to keep the E in whiskey.
So that's easy to remember.
It is.
Scotland, Japan, Canada, no E in the name, no E in whiskey.
Exactly.
All right, got it.
A handy mnemonic.
So now that we've got that sorted, let's really dig in. Scotch and Irish whiskey, two major players. But as we're learning, they've got their own stories, their own distinct personalities almost.
Right. Even though on the surface they seem so similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they've taken very, very different paths to get where they are.
Okay, so Scotch first. I was reading that, like, the 18th century, that's when this whole aging in wooden casks, that really took off, right?
Big time.
And then, bam, 1823, Excise Act, legal distilleries get the green light.
Game changer.
Huge, right?
Oh, yeah.
What happened? It changed everything.
It reshaped the entire industry. Before, distilling was kind of this, well, secretive, often illicit activity. And then all of a sudden, it's legal. It's regulated.
Wow.
And that really paved the way for the big brands we know today. You think Johnny Walker with their iconic square bottle, Glenfiddich, single malts.
Oh, yeah. Those names are basically synonymous with Scotch.
Exactly.
That's incredible how one act, it can have that ripple effect. So Irish whiskey, how did they stack up during all this?
Well, picture this. 19th century Irish whiskey is booming. Distilleries like Bushmills, which got its license way, way back in 1608, by the way.
Whoa.
Centuries old. They were experiencing this incredible success. But then the 20th century hits.
Oh.
And things get a bit more, shall we say, complicated.
Even for a heavyweight like Bushmills, what happened?
It just goes to show you, I think, that even the most popular things, they aren't invincible. Global events, they have a way of shaking things up,
Yeah.
You've got political shifts, drinking habits change. Even something like prohibition in the United States, had a huge impact.
Wow.
All of this contributed to this kind of decline in Irish whiskey's popularity.
Talking about a roller coaster ride, right?
Right.
You've got this huge boom, and then all of a sudden,
Exactly.
it makes you wonder how those shifts, those historical events, how they impact things across the pond.
America.
Right.
America. That's where we start to see names like bourbon, rye, right?
Right.
Familiar names.
Exactly.
So they had their own thing going on.
Oh, absolutely. And each of these American whiskeys, they brought something totally unique to the table. Bourbon, for example. Think Kentucky.
Okay.
Their claim to fame. Corn. Corn is the primary grain.
Oh, interesting.
And here's the curveball: to be called bourbon, it has to be aged in new charred oak barrels.
Charred oak. Interesting. So is that where you get that, like, caramel, vanilla sweetness from.
That's it?
I always wondered how different wood types could, like, make such different flavors.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The impact of the wood.
And rye. I mean, that's big in Canada, too, right?
Oh, huge in Canada.
But it's got a very different, like, bolder taste.
So that's
spicier.
Bolder, more robust, than a smooth bourbon.
So two very different American styles. But it's all whiskey at the end of the day.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? It's this global conversation in a way.
Each region kind of adding its own spin to this core concept. And speaking of global, we can't forget about Japanese whiskey. It's had a meteoric rise.
It really has. It's everywhere now, right? And it's good.
Oh, incredibly good. And there's this fascinating story there, too, with Masataka Taketsuru. Every whiskey enthusiast should know that name.
Oh.
Because he actually traveled to Scotland.
No way.
Oh, yeah, to learn the art of whiskey making firsthand.
Wow. Talk about dedication. So he wasn't messing around. He went straight to the source.
Exactly. Brought that knowledge back to Japan and essentially revolutionized the industry there. And you see his legacy today. Nikka whiskey, renowned worldwide.
Wow. It's amazing taking the best of, like, both worlds, blending them together.
It speaks to the interconnectedness of it all, doesn't it? And speaking of connections, I'm curious, have you ever thought about all the rules and regulations around whiskey production?
I have to admit, when I saw that in the materials, I thought, really? We need laws for whiskey? But I'm sensing there's more to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's more than just, bureaucracy. These regulations, they're about protecting something, a heritage, a legacy.
Okay, I like that.
It's like a quality guarantee,
That
right?
makes sense.
You pick up a bottle of Scotch whiskey, you know it's met a certain standard, you're getting the real deal.
So it's not just, like, marketing jargon. It actually means something. Like, what kind of rules are we talking about here?
Well, Scotch, for example, has to be aged for at least 3 years
Okay.
in oak casks. And not just any oak, mind you. It has to be aged in Scotland.
Wow. So no shortcuts. They're serious about tradition.
Absolutely. Bourbon's got its own set of rules. Remember how we talked about corn being the primary grain?
Yeah.
At least 51% has to be corn. And new charred oak barrels, only for bourbon.
Wow. So it's like a recipe almost.
In a way, it is. It ensures that each whiskey style, it stays true to its roots.
So when they say, like, quality guarantee, it's because these rules, these very specific requirements, it all impacts that final flavor.
Precisely. It's not arbitrary. Every detail, it's designed to make sure each whiskey has its own character.
I'm starting to see whiskey in a whole new light. It's like we walk into a bar, order a drink, but we never really think about the journey it took to get there.
And that's the beauty of knowledge, isn't it?
Right.
It takes something ordinary and suddenly you see the extraordinary.
You really do. I'm looking at my own whiskey cabinet a little differently now.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's the distillation process, the art of blending.
It's amazing how much there is to uncover, for something that seems so simple on the surface. It's like we've been let in on a secret, right?
It's true.
Like, we enjoy a glass of whiskey, but we don't often stop and think, wow, the craftsmanship that went into this.
Right, the history,
Yeah.
the artistry.
It all goes back to that idea, like you were saying. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. I thought we were going to become whiskey experts today, but really...
Just the beginning.
Exactly, the beginning of a very fun journey.
And there's so much to explore still. I mean, you've got different regions, specific distilleries, even pairing whiskey with food. It's a whole world.
So, as we wrap up our whiskey deep dive today,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away?
I hope they realize it's more than just a drink.
Yeah.
Whiskey, it's really a journey through time. It's this testament to, like, human ingenuity, and there's just so much to discover if you're willing to, do a little digging.
I love that. And, I think we proved that a little knowledge, it really does go a long way.
It really does.
So next time you're enjoying a glass, maybe your favorite bottle, take a second, really think about it. The grains, the casks, the people who created this process centuries ago.
It's all there in that one glass.
And on that note, I think we should all raise a glass to the wonderful world of whiskey. Cheers. And thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.